A beginner swimmer keeps afloat within reach. With it, their strokes look smooth, their rhythm feels natural, their confidence almost unquestioned. Take it away, and the same water suddenly feels deeper, heavier, uncertain. They pause, they doubt, they pull back. Nothing in their body forgot how to move. What's missing is not ability, it's learning that has not gone deep enough. That's the first crack in how most people misunderstand confidence. This is Level Up 365, and today we're going to look at confidence from a different angle, not as a personality trait, but as a result of something far more fundamental: how you learn. Most people treat confidence as belief. They think if they can convince themselves strongly enough, they will act differently. So they repeat affirmations, visualize success, try to feel ready. But belief without evidence is fragile. The moment reality pushes back, it breaks. Because your mind can lie, your body cannot. Your nervous system only trusts what it has experienced enough times to recognize as manageable. That trust is not built through thinking. It is built through exposure, repetition, and correction. In other words, confidence is not something you think your way into. It is something you learn your way into. Every skill you have ever mastered follows the same pattern. At the beginning, everything feels unstable. You overthink, you hesitate, you make mistakes that seem obvious in hindsight. Nothing flows, nothing feels natural. But with repetition, something shifts. Movements become smoother, decisions require less effort. You stop questioning every step. What changed is not your personality, it is your level of familiarity. And familiarity is simply learning that has been repeated until it becomes automatic. This is why a person can feel confident in one domain and completely uncertain in another. Not because they are inherently confident or insecure, but because they have learned deeply in one area and barely at all in another. Confidence is not global. It is earned specifically through exposure. But here is where most people get stuck. They confuse understanding with learning. They read, they watch, they analyze. They know what to do, but they cannot do it under pressure. They mistake clarity for capability. And because of that, they feel frustrated, as if something is wrong with them. Nothing is wrong. They simply haven't crossed the line where knowledge becomes embodied. There are two layers of learning. The first is intellectual. You understand the concept. The second is behavioral. You can execute it in real conditions. Confidence only exists at the second layer. You can explain how to swim perfectly and still panic in water. You can understand social dynamics and still freeze in conversation. You can know exactly what discipline requires and still fail to act when it matters. Because your system does not respond to what you know, it responds to what it has practiced. This is why repetition under real conditions is non-negotiable. Real learning requires friction. It requires moments where you are slightly overwhelmed, slightly uncertain, slightly uncomfortable. That edge is where adaptation happens. Without it, there is no change. Most people avoid that edge. They stay in environments where they can control the outcome, where mistakes are minimized, where they feel safe enough to maintain the illusion of competence. But that safety comes at a cost. You do not grow into confidence by staying where you already feel confident. You grow into it by expanding what you can handle. Every time you step into discomfort and stay long enough to adjust, you update your internal model. You prove to yourself, not through words but through experience, that you can engage with uncertainty and not collapse. That proof accumulates, and over time it creates something stable. Not a feeling, but a pattern. You begin to notice that situations that once felt intimidating now feel neutral. Challenges that once required effort now feel automatic. You are not more motivated, you are more adapted. This is what real confidence looks like. It is quiet because it does not need to announce itself. It is stable because it is not dependent on conditions. It does not disappear when things go wrong because it was built in moments where things did go wrong. There is also a deeper shift that happens when confidence is built through learning. You stop needing to control everything. When your confidence depends on perfect conditions, you become rigid. You need certainty before you act. You need reassurance before you move. You avoid variables you cannot predict. But when your confidence is rooted in experience, you become flexible. You don't need to know exactly how things will unfold. You trust your ability to respond as they do. That flexibility is power. It allows you to enter unfamiliar situations without shrinking. It allows you to take risks without collapsing. It allows you to move forward without waiting for guarantees. And this is where confidence becomes transferable. If it is built on outcomes, it stays limited to specific situations. If it is built on learning, it follows you into new ones. Because the underlying skill is not the task itself. It is your ability to engage, adapt, and recover. There is a practical way to think about this. Confidence is the memory of solved problems. Every time you face something difficult and work through it, you add a reference point. Not just mentally, but physically. Your system remembers the pattern. It remembers that discomfort did not end you. It remembers that confusion can be resolved. Over time, this creates a different internal dialogue. Instead of asking, "What if I fail?" you begin to think, "If I fail, I will figure it out." That shift is subtle, but it changes your behavior completely. Because now, failure is not a threat. It is part of the process you already trust. This is why people who learn consistently become confident almost as a side effect. Not because they are trying to feel confident, but because they are constantly updating their capacity. They are not avoiding difficulty, they are engaging with it, and each engagement reduces uncertainty. There is also a discipline required here that most people underestimate. Consistency matters more than intensity. You do not need extreme effort, you need repeated exposure. Small actions done regularly create more lasting confidence than occasional bursts of motivation. Because confidence is built through accumulation, not spikes. Each time you follow through, even when you don't feel like it, you reinforce a simple pattern. You act despite internal resistance. That pattern becomes identity, and identity is what stabilizes confidence over time. Because now you are not someone who waits to feel ready. You are someone who acts and adapts. At that point, confidence stops being something you chase. It becomes something embedded in how you operate. But there is one final layer that completes this. Confidence is not built by eliminating fear. It is built by redefining your relationship with it. Fear will still appear. Uncertainty will still exist. The difference is that it no longer controls your decisions. You recognize it as part of the learning process. When you step into something new, your system reacts. That reaction is not a signal to stop. It is a signal that you are entering unfamiliar territory. And unfamiliar territory is exactly where learning happens. So instead of avoiding it, you use it. You move through it. You stay long enough for your system to adjust. And each time you do, the boundary of what feels manageable expands. That expansion is confidence. Over time, something shifts that most people never experience. You no longer need confidence to begin. You begin and confidence forms behind your actions. That reverses everything. You stop waiting. You stop hesitating. You stop negotiating with yourself. You act, you learn, you adapt. And through that cycle, confidence becomes inevitable. So if you strip confidence down to its core, it is not belief, it is not emotion, it is not personality. It is learned familiarity with uncertainty, built through continuous exposure and reinforced through action. And the only real question left is this: are you avoiding the process that creates it, or are you willing to step into it again and again until it becomes part of who you are?